Hey folks, BlackCross here. Today we're going to do a discussion video, but this one in particular we're going to do a little bit differently because number one, there's not a lot that I'm looking towards, but there is a lot that I'm looking forward to, per se. Now, lately, since I've got back from camping, I know there's a lot of people who are already prepping for the E3 event that's coming out next month, which by the time this video does get released, it will literally be 1 month away before E3 does come out. So, this video is going to be towards, like, what I want to see at E3. More particularly, releases, per se. Like, that's all I really want in terms of E3, and that is to see official release dates, you know. There are a lot of games that are still within the development stage. They still say 2018, but they're not being said as to when, per se. So it's one of those, like, yeah, that game that we talk so much about is still 2018. We just don't know when. So there's still a lot of games out there. For example, we're going to talk about the confirmed ones that are still set in 2018, per se. For example, there is the first off, out of the way, Kingdom Hearts 3. I have no doubt in my mind that Square Enix is going to use E3 to have Kingdom Hearts 3 be revealed that day. Because it just makes sense, because they're still saying 2018. They are still saying 2018. For them not to have revealed information by this point as to when per se is a shock to me. So I have no doubt in my mind that this would be the last time that Kingdom Hearts 3 will get talked about, because this will be the day that it will have a release date. You know, they're saying 2018. Well, E3 is going to be the day that they're going to reveal the official release date. And needless to say, it's something that's been waited for a long time. So hopefully Kingdom Hearts 3 will have an official release date, a full-on date-wise, month, day, and the year being 2018. Another one per se is Biomutant, and that one in particular I've had pretty high interest as well, but that one hadn't had any major detail at E3, but I am hoping that by E3 they'll have a release date for that one. Another one being of Code Vein. That one has still been saying 2018 for quite some time as well. That one I'm still waiting for, and hopefully that one will also have a release date as well. There are still other games too that is said to be releasing in 2018. For example, Bloodstained: Ritual of the Night. If you don't know much about it, basically it's I forgot his name now all of a sudden, but the guy who created the Castlevania Symphony of the Night games, he basically is creating this new transition of gameplay. And needless to say, it's looking really good, but we haven't heard any details of it at all in terms of like when it's supposed to be released. And there was rumors saying that it's supposed to be released in 2018, but so far nothing major has come out. So hopefully E3 will be the day that one will also have a release date as well, I'm hoping. Now, that being said, let's talk about some of the other games that are still within the confines of like, hey, this is something that's being worked on, but we have no more details other than that. And there are two particular games. One of them is, obviously, Final Fantasy VII. Square Enix has talked about Final Fantasy VII for quite some time, and needless to say, this is a big, big deal. Now, we haven't gotten much details, and that's only because during the first part of its initial development stage, they were being made by a different corporation entirely. And unfortunately, that was dropped entirely, so in other words, it's being redone again. And as far as I know, that one is a pretty rocky start. So, to know that Square Enix's remake for Final Fantasy VII had a rocky start to begin with, it's already starting to be unfortunate news for most fans. But honestly, I'm not rushing Final Fantasy VII, because here's the thing. I sincerely doubt that it's going to be better than the original, but if it could at least match up the hype that the original had, I think Square Enix can get a win-win either way. But in all honesty, I don't see Final Fantasy VII being released until after 2019. Like, I can see it being 2020 at this point. If they release it at 2019, they might have done something differently. Like, obviously, there was announcements saying that they were going to do it episodically, in which case that may very well still be true. How true it is, we don't know. It's a matter of, we just gotta wait until they announce further details. And honestly, I think E3 would be a good place to at least talk about Final Fantasy VII Remake. Not so much give off major details, but at least tell us what's going on, you know, what's being done about the project itself. Are you still working on it? And the answer is yes. How far in terms of development are you in? Obviously, those small details will be announced probably at E3. But if not announced, several interviewers will get in contact with these people and at least get into investigations as to, like, how's development going, you know, like, in terms of, like, grayscale, how's the development looking? Like, is it good? Is it great? Is it going fantastically? Or is it going at a snail's pace? You know, something like that would be nice to know. Another game that is still in development because of what they've done last year is that Shadows Die Twice. Now, that's not the official name. Keep in mind, that one is not an official name. That's just its code name. So in other words, we have no idea what it is. A lot of people are thinking it could be Bloodborne 2. A lot of people could be thinking it's something completely different. The way I see it is that it could be Bloodborne 2, but it could be a different Bloodborne. Now, listen to what I have to say about this one. I think if it ain't Bloodborne 2, it's something like Bloodborne, per se. Considering that Bloodborne was released only for PS4, obviously Microsoft have been trying to get in on that deal. And so they're saying that, okay, Bloodborne got successful. What if we could bring it to both consoles as well as PC? And I'm sure development for that is probably an ideal agenda, but that would mean that they would have to take the name Bloodborne and put it on those things, which Sony owns. So I don't see that being possible. However, though, I do see it possible making a re-rendition of Bloodborne per se. You know how Demon's Souls created the Dark Souls franchise? Because technically Demon's Souls was a sole exclusive for Sony, whereas Dark Souls is multi-purpose. That's what this is going to be. It's going to be like that of Bloodborne, but it's going to be for all consoles, which means there's a possibility to see it on the Switch. It's going to be seen on PC, as well as Microsoft Xbox One. So I have no doubt in my mind that could be something that they are working towards right now. So, hopefully, maybe, by the time the E3 comes around, more details for the so-called Shadows Die Twice will be revealed. And I'm hoping that does, because, quite frankly, that one has not been talked about since then. And they even said, within the next 10-month time, be ready to see some new details on this one. And we're already a little bit past the 6-month stage, so within the next couple months, we should be getting some details on that particular thing, I think. And I think E3 would be one of those places that they will reveal it. If not, I think there's one other event after E3, which is the Tokyo Game Show, that they will reveal that as well. As to, like, what it's supposed to be, or if it is Bloodborne, or if it's something completely different, we don't know yet. It's one of those, like, yeah, what is that saying? Are you gonna tell us by chance or not? But that's basically, like, the biggest stuff, like, major stuff. Basically, update information on those two games, as well as official release dates for the game that has been said to be released in 2018. I want to know when they're supposed to come out. The sooner I know, the sooner I can get things stored up for money to where I can pre-order this stuff, you know what I mean? And hell, I would love to see a collector's edition for Kingdom Hearts 3. Fingers crossing for a good one. Fingers crossing for a good one. Now, let's talk about something else that I should talk about. particularly what we could be seeing at E3. Now, I'm not going to be hoping for a lot, considering the fact that, like I said, right now, there's not a lot of details as to, like, new stuff that's coming out and everything like that. And I've been trying to keep my eyes open for any new games that might be interesting. But none that's caught my eye, with the exception of, like I said, Biomutant, of course. Now, there is possibility for maybe a, I don't know, scratch of an ideal, per se. But I would not mind. Now, hear me out whenever I say this. After playing through a little bit of Blood Will Tell, I am actually loving the concept ideal. And honestly, it's something that I would like to see more of. And that is a video game that features a large assortment of different bosses. Dark Souls has that feature, Bloodborne has that feature. So, I mean, in all honesty, I would love to see another game where you get to fight a whole bunch of mess of different bosses. Some of them being mandatory, but the rest of them being, like, optional. And I mean a large assortment of it. And in all honesty, I want to see more of games just like this. In the 3D action field. Now, of course, there are possibilities of that being the case. Another game, and I can't believe I forgot to mention this one whenever I talked about development-wise, but if you remember this one game called Lost Souls Aside, that one has been on the quiet for quite some time, but recently I found out the guy who developed this game by himself, keep in mind that trailer that was released years ago, he did that all by himself, and because of this, had been purchased by Sony. A Sony executive actually called him up and actually asked him to develop this game for it. And not only that, he's been given his own team, which is pretty impressive, mind you. To have his own team finally together to work on this game, that's really achievement worthy. I mean, the fact that he did what he did by himself was pretty groundbreaking. But to see him have a team of his own, that's pretty crazy too. And according to what was being said, he's hoping to have it finished by 2018. Now that's to say that the game is being developed wise. That doesn't mean he plans to have it released in 2018. That means he plans to have all development stages done. In other words, the game will be ready to be in production afterwards. So I say early 2019 to mid 2019 that game might come out, which means we could see that coming out in E3 in terms of announcement for future games. And that game, let's put it this way, it looks good. It really does. It kind of reminds me of like what would happen if Devil May Cry gameplay style met with the art style of Final Fantasy, which is interesting because technically the guy had the art style sort of reminiscent of that of the Final Fantasy 15 game, which I thought was interesting. I was like, so Final Fantasy 15 helped spawn this game. Interesting. So, but hopefully that one will have something interesting to look forward to. But like I said, in terms of like brand new games that hadn't been talked about, in terms of like what's now being in development, I would like to see another game where it has a large assortment of bosses. Now, what I mean by a large assortment of bosses, I don't mean like 20. I would like to see like closer to 30, if not 40. And I know this seems weird to do, and I actually plan on doing a discussion video about this later on, but I would like to see another game where it has like you exploring. Keep this in mind, this is just an ideal. I'm not saying that someone's going to do this, but if you do, you have my attention. But imagine this open world where you basically explore the world itself, but you encounter all of these different monstrosity monsters, them being the bosses that you would fight. I want to see something like that, sort of like have that open world field of Shadow Colossus where you're searching out these monsters, but be more flushed out, not be like, oh, this is where you have to go here and here and here. No, you could go anywhere you want and still encounter the boss of that area in general. In Shadow Colossus, you can only encounter that boss if you're looking for it. In Dark Souls, if you encounter the boss in that area, you're going a different direction either way. You know, I want the spread out of open world concept of like, okay, you can go anywhere you want at any point in time, and you'll fight the bosses that you're looking for. I want something like that. In terms of how the story and concept is, so long as it's just a 3D fighting field game, sort of like that of Kingdom Hearts, Dark Souls, Blood Will Tell, stuff like that, if it has that same feel of combat, I don't really generally care, I don't think. I say I don't generally care, but I might. I want it to be a good story, keep in mind, but I want the gameplay to be the core access. So it's a matter of like, let's see what happens, you know? Like I said, the biggest thing I'm looking for in E3 is just mostly release dates. Release dates is what I want. If there's at least 1 or 2 games that has my interest at E3, that's probably a good thing. But my main focus right now of what I'm looking forward to at E3 is mostly release dates. That's all I want to know. Now, of course, there are also other games as well that's being developed from the Nintendo Switch, keep in mind. So, I might as well go ahead and talk about those real quickly before I end the video here, because there's not a lot of Nintendo games that has my interest, with the exception of, like, maybe 2 or 3. I say 3 because the one, I think, is said to be released sometime this year. I don't know. I hadn't really looked into it after Nintendo did their mini direct. But, the World Ends With You Switch version is looking really good, in all honesty. I know a lot of people are going to be confused as to like, okay, how are you going to play this? I think Nintendo has this already covered. I think Nintendo, let's put it this way, Square Enix and Nintendo are fondly familiar with each other. Like, they're very close. Let's keep in mind, Square Enix has made a ton of different Final Fantasy games for Nintendo. Proof of that is some of the Final Fantasy games that was released for the DS. So, I don't have no doubts in my mind that Square Enix has already got this covered. And even though Nintendo has a completely different hardware in some cases, Square Enix tends to figure it out to some degree. They're always on the fence of like, okay, what can we do with this? And then it's like, okay, well, let's experiment. That's the same way they did with Dream Drop Distance, because I thought they would never get Dream Drop Distance onto PS4. I didn't think they could. You know, considering the fact you have the 3DS versus the PS4. I didn't think that could be possible. But they said they were in the testing grounds, and somehow they were able to pull it off with 2.8. I was blown away. I was surprised by that. So, to see The World Ends With You on an actual console, but still a handheld, is still going to be pretty amazing to see. Plus, it features new story after the main story itself. So, that one's going to be interesting to play. Another one is No More Heroes 3 or Travis Touchdowns Returns. That one's going to be fun to see get a release date as well, which is why I've held off on getting the Switch, because of the fact that there are still a lot of games that I'm looking forward to that are going to be coming out for the Switch. And Travis Touchdown Returns is going to be that one. I have not played the second one, but I love playing the first one. The first one is definitely fun to play with, and I still want to get the second one whenever I can. I just wish they had released it for the PS4 or even later for the PlayStation 3 whenever they did, but I don't see it coming out anytime soon for any other consoles. Something tells me Nintendo's got a really good grip on the sequel, so chances are it's probably not going to come out anytime soon. But to see the third one on the Switch and on an actual controller instead of being motion controls, that's probably going to be good to see. It's going to be nice to actually be able to play rather than do motion controls, because why? I don't know, but anyway. So I'm looking forward to that. But there is one other game that was talked about, and no one's talked about it since then. Now, record, there are some people who talk about whenever you bring it up to discussion, but they're pretty much the same. They don't know any details. I want to see more details towards this new Shin Megami Tensei game. Obviously, this is going to be Shin Megami Tensei 5. But we don't know any details other than it's being made. Since that trailer that we saw years ago, we only know it's going to be coming out. And as far as we know, it is coming out for the Switch. We don't know if it's coming out for other consoles, though. So, For the time being, I am categorizing it into the Switch version until more detail comes out, because as of right now, as it stands, we know nothing. We know absolutely nothing as to, like, oh, is it going to be coming out for PS4? Is it coming out for Xbox One? Is it PC? Or is it just Switch exclusive? Which, technically, I wouldn't doubt it. But then again, that would suck. that would suck. But hopefully more details will be revealed for that one as well. Like I said, just release dates for some of these other games I'm looking forward to. Or even an update of, like, how development-wise is going, you know. And if there are any other new games that are in development, I want to see something that piques my interest. You know, I mean, there has been some that piqued my interest, but some of them have died down since last E3. Some of them are already out right now. Some of them are still within the development stage. But hopefully this coming up E3, there'll be some good ones. There'll be some good details as to what's going to happen. So, at any rate, though, thank you so much for watching, and I shall see you in the next video. This is BlackCross signing off. See you later, guys.